Thank you, Michael. I'm back. I'm no longer wearing an MCP shirt for the first time in my life to talk to you about agent identities and what that means. So you've heard this time and time again today. Every company is now an AI company. In fact, I would go even further to say most companies are now branding themselves as AI agent companies, whatever exactly that means. So I guess question to the audience, show of hands, who here has some AI product that they are selling? That feels like most of the room at this point, and we see this time and time again, especially in the Bay Area. And as an identity company, we always get the same question. What is the future of agent identity? What does all this mean and how are we going to solve it? And as Michael told you, this is something I deeply cared about. I was working on it at MIT, trying to imagine this future and figure out the problems and how we can do robust, scalable solutions. Well, the good news and the point I want to get across to you today is that agent identity is already here. We already have solutions, they are production ready, and you can start building to be ready for whatever future is coming with AI agents. So, first, let's unpack what's interesting about AI agents and why we need a different identity stack. It starts with new interfaces. Natural language is very cool. We all love playing with ChatGPT, but it also introduces new challenges that we need to address in how we connect to surfaces. This has also opened up new protocols that are eating the world that we need to start thinking about how identity integrates into. It also comes with bigger risks. The fact that language models are non-deterministic, they're probabilistic models, you never quite know what token's going to come next. And when it comes to using tools and interacting with systems, you never really know what an AI agent is going to do. And with both of these challenges, they come at greater scale. You heard earlier that AI agents operate at machine speed, but with human-level capabilities. That you have a service interacting, you're selling a product that can do things as fast and as flexibly as at least some humans can, but are happening at machine scales, often with limited human intervention. So we need to rethink our identity and authorization stack around AI agents. That's what I want to talk to you about today. But first, let's talk about those new interfaces. This is my favorite thing that has come out in the last year, is the Model Context Protocol. Hopefully many of you have heard about it. You might have even come to many of the cool MCP events that WorkOS and many other companies have thrown. It is a new interface that allows you to take your application and build a native interface designed for language models, designed for AI agents. And essentially, any AI agent that is massively popular and general purpose now supports the Model Context Protocol, whether it's Cursor for AI coding or Microsoft Copilot for integrating with traditional enterprise workloads. ChatGPT just released new integrations in the last 2 weeks, and Claude has supported this for a long time. Now, the Model Context Protocol is extremely powerful. You can put text inside of an AI agent's application context window. You can control the behavior of AI agents and how they interact with your services, which is significantly different to just wrapping traditional APIs through tool calling. But it also comes with real challenges around how we design and integrate our applications and our identity infrastructure into these AI applications. Let's start with dynamic client registration, which, if you know what dynamic client registration is, firstly, I'm sorry. Secondly, it probably means you're building with MCP. And it means that you have an interface that you want to connect to a bunch of AI agents. And what dynamic client registration does is it allows your MCP server to connect to any AI agent, which is great for developer use cases and prototyping, but terrifying for enterprises. What this means is you can't control which AI application is interacting with your service. Now, this is a real risk if you're an IT admin and you're worried that you're going to share proprietary data from your API endpoints or from your MCP server into a random AI application. You might have ChatGPT Enterprise and trust that, but you really don't want it connecting to a third-party AI application. So by design, these new interfaces already have problems that make it hard to scale into the enterprise. Beyond tools like dynamic client registration, there are just deeper problems with language models. They are non-deterministic, which means when you have interfaces designed for humans, like natural language, which is what all these systems are built on, or like browser use in the form of the ChatGPT Atlas or other browser using capabilities, Claude for Chrome, you never quite know what the language model is going to do. I can speak to countless examples from my own life when I've been using an AI agent to try and do something, and in coding, it kills random processes or deletes random folders. When I'm trying to use it to file invoices, it will just file the wrong invoice, which means we need to redesign systems around this kind of unreliability that looks like a user. A key part of this is when you're tracking metrics of how things are progressing, failure rates of systems, you also want to know if an AI was involved. It's very clear that code that has an AI doing the coding, maybe with a human in the loop or maybe without, is more likely to have that pull request rejected, pull request closed, if it's AI slop. If you're doing invoicing, you want to know if an AI was involved so you can do a little more scrutiny on that. And even more so, take that invoicing example. If an AI agent is approving your invoicing, that has very different concerns around accountability, liability, and control of what can and can't happen. We've built an entire ecosystem of SaaS enterprise software around managing how users, employees, customers interact with services. And we still need that. We still need to track what users are doing and how they're doing it. But we also need to know how AI is involved in that process. This is critical for monitoring, it's critical for making sure the right things happen. Now, the problem with these agent identities is they're really weird. Sometimes they act like a user. There are lots of applications out there that treat an AI existing on its own as being a full user. There's also lots of situations where AI is being used, but really me as a human user is in the loop. There's other situations where AI is being used as almost a service account. It's just an ongoing workflow that performs some operation. But it might perform that operation a little non-deterministically. We don't quite know what's going to happen in the way we would with traditional service accounts and workloads. So AI agent is in this fuzzy middle that identity infrastructure isn't really designed to handle. We've never really had a running workflow that behaves like a human being. Now, that's just figuring out what AI is involved and when and how. We also want to make sure that those AI agents behave correctly and are controlled. Authentication is critically important, and so is authorization, auth-z. Pavan just told you how important authorization is and how hard it is to get right. That is even more true for AI agents. We want to know what AI agent is there, make sure we authorize correctly, we authenticate correctly, and then make sure that that authorization is enforced on the behavior of language models, which again, is really hard to do because you can't predefine the full extent of what you want an AI agent to do. As AI agents get more powerful and more capable, they're also more flexible in the tasks they can perform. You can see this with coding agents. You can give it one command and it will go and perform a series of steps. It might go and check documentation, it might write some code, it might test that code, it might open a browser to orchestrate testing, and then create a PR with comments. Maybe you'll even send a Slack message to your engineering manager to review the PR. This is really cool, but it makes it hard for you when you're designing systems to predefine all of the possible permissions that an AI agent will need. Really, really, really annoying. And also, the more you restrict an AI, the less it can do. So that's the authorization piece, which can be challenging. But we also have a monitoring piece. This is something that I hear a lot of folks talk about, is we need to track what AIs are doing, especially in larger organizations. Everyone here in this room seems to be selling an AI agent, probably into some enterprise, and enterprises are genuinely overwhelmed with the number of AI applications they're facing. And so alongside that identity infrastructure, you need really robust monitoring to make sure you kind of know what these AIs are doing. And this is more than just logging all of the prompts that people are putting into chatbots. You want to understand why agents made decisions based on what information that was fed into them. Now, that's not too hard. We can build that, right? The ongoing part of all of these problems, from interfaces to identity to monitoring, is agents operate at a massive, massive scale. I don't know how many AI apps folks in this room are using, but I think collectively we probably have tens of thousands of agents touching different parts of our lives. And large enterprises who want to be AI forward, they want to experiment with applications, have a ton of AIs doing different things with different capabilities in different parts of the tech stack. So, that was a lot of problems. Sounds pretty hard. How can we control all these agents? What is the solution to agent identity? Well, a year ago, if you had asked me that, I would have said I don't know, I'm not sure. But nowadays, I really think a cohesive vision of what agent identity can, will, and does look like is forming. And this is why at WorkOS, we have designed the entire WorkOS product suite around being agent native from first principles. You've been pitched a lot of products today that are designed to do user management and allow users to be more empowered to access services. This is also true of the AI agents that either you are building or your customers are trying to buy and integrate with. So, what does it actually mean to be agent native? People talk a big game, let's actually put some brass tacks to it. It all starts with those interfaces. We love MCP at WorkOS. We keep throwing very fun MCP nights. And part of that is because it's a great surface to introduce really robust security into the interactions between AI applications or AI agents and your SaaS app. It's a great new interface that unlocks a ton of consumers. We've been very lucky to power some of the most popular MCP applications out there, connecting to clients like Cursor and Claude. In fact, if you create a fast MCP 2.0 server right now, by default, the authorization stack that you'll use will be WorkOS's AuthKit. And I already talked about how there's some challenges with MCP. Well, the reason we really don't recommend you build the full stack yourself is because we are working tirelessly to stay up to date with the spec and make sure we apply the strongest security principles to it and integrate in with different notions of agent identity. In particular, client ID metadata is something that came out 2 weeks ago that allows you to control and identify which AI applications, which AI agents are connected to your MCP server. And as we are deep in the community building this, and we want to make sure that we support the tech stack as it evolves and as the protocol changes, so that you can be comfortable building AI applications and being ready for the enterprise and the challenges it faces. You already saw a demo of this earlier today, but we also support the OpenAI Apps SDK. Now, this is really cool because it unlocks 700 million users, which I think is incredible. But it's also super relevant for folks in this room because the most popular enterprise chat application is ChatGPT, which means you can have IT admins provision access to your SaaS app inside of ChatGPT, so that as employees of large enterprises try and onboard to being an AI-first organization, as it seems every enterprise wants to be, those employees can have direct access to your applications and your services with enterprise-grade security built in. This is really nice. It plugs into SSO, it plugs into SAML, has robust identification of clients attached to it. I'll do a quick plug that building these OpenAI Apps SDK is remarkably challenging to be aligned with the OpenAI specs and metadata requirements, which means truly, if you want to build them, come talk to us. We have a bunch of folks who are experts now in building these, even though it's only 2 weeks old. Okay, that's MCP and chatbots, but AI agents are a lot more than chatbots. There are many examples of agent workflow builders, tools like OpenAI's Agent Kit, N8N, and many others. Here's an example of one behind me connecting through MCP. These applications want long-running workflows. They're more like service accounts and less like AI agents. And so we need to make sure you have the right tools to plug in to these agent builders, no matter what stack you want to use, custom, off the shelf. This is why WorkOS, well, part of the reason WorkOS just released API keys that are agent ready by default. Lots of long-running processes require API keys. The original MCP spec used API keys. It's a natural fit to tie permissions and access to an agent back to a meaningful notion of identity and permissions. And I think it's really cool. It's a really nice product that got built. A lot of enterprises don't like API keys for a bunch of security reasons, which is why we also can move you up to the next tier of security, machine-to-machine authorization through client credentials. This gives you a more robust connection, and again ties back to that really robust notion of agent identity on the back end of WorkOS. For those who are really in the weeds, you'll know, well, not a lot of folks support machine-to-machine auth. That's why we've been supporting authorization extensions inside of the MCP spec to make sure that AI workloads can have enterprise-grade security and are ready to scale into the enterprise. Okay, that's interfaces and allows you to do authentication for your AI agent and your user into AI agents and AI applications. But in the back of this is identity. we're tying all of these access to a meaningful notion of an agent identity. Now, that's still a little unclear. And the truth is that agent identity is exploding right now. It's not that there is one solution, there are many different solutions. Lots of vendors treat their AI agent identities as users, as first-party users that you can hire and onboard and give access to systems using existing infrastructure for user management. Other systems treat them as service accounts. In many cases, we treat them as on behalf of flows, so an AI agent working on behalf of a user. And sometimes that is not a single chain. We're connected to a bunch of users and managed by a team. Now, everyone here who is building AI and building AI agents might have very different versions of an AI agent, very different applications. And it's our job at WorkOS to make sure that every single one of you has agent identity that works. That's why WorkOS has made sure it connects to every single notion of agent identity that works out there. Whether your customers use something like Microsoft Entra's Agent ID, or the Google IAM system for agent space, or Okta's new identity stack. Each of these is subtly different in very complicated ways and have different tiers of agent identity that you need to integrate with. Now, the pain for you is if your customers have different identity infrastructure, they want to govern their AI models differently, you're going to have to write custom identity solutions for different customers using your AI. We really don't want you to have to do that, which is why WorkOS partners with all of them to allow you to write one set of infrastructure, one set of identities, and it will work with any of your customers. You guys might have heard of Skim and SAML and these enterprise integrations. Skim has a new extension that allows us to provision and deprovision agents and do lifecycle governance of agents through existing protocols, which means that when your customers provision an agent, it's going to show up in your user management dashboard for WorkOS. You don't have to think about what does it mean to have an agent identity. If your customer says agent identities are users, WorkOS already supports it. And if your customer says, we just want a service account, we already have API keys and M2M auth that can connect to that service account. The story is that we don't need to change everything. We can actually support whatever solution is coming our way. So that gives you that identity touch point, but that also ties back into all the benefits we need that come from robust enterprise-ready identity infrastructure. In particular, we just had a great talk about authorizations. We cannot emphasize enough how important it is to do robust permissions and scoping on AI agents. And you need this to be extremely flexible, and you're probably going to have to reinvent it a few times if you do it yourself, much like Pavan just talked about. If you start with constrained chatbots doing RAG, you'll build authorization one way. And when that agent wants to go and interact with the browser or use MCP tools, you're going to end up reinventing it then. The goal of using a product like WorkOS is you write your permissions infrastructure one time, whether it's through RBAC or other tools, and then it scales throughout your entire AI stack and AI agent journey, looping back in to the identities that come from you as a first-party solution, or from your customers which have custom identity infrastructure solutions. Whatever solution they have for identity, the same tools that access permissions and sync with them will also work with agents so that AIs do not go off the rails. Beyond permissions, we've got audit logging. This is something a lot of governance folks talk about when they're trying to deploy AI in organizations. There are a bunch of regulations requiring different audit logging and monitoring schemes for AI agents. And there are also internal governance protocols at enterprises with specific targeted requirements for how you track AI being used. CISOs are deeply concerned, with good cause, about AI and AI agents. It can go and do crazy things. It can also go and leak data to third-party sources through inappropriate tool use or sending it to model vendors. This means you need really high-grade, enterprise-ready audit logs that also sync in to event management systems and logging systems. This is why we've taken the existing event monitoring and audit logs product at WorkOS and made sure it was ready to scale to AI agents and be ready for that. And when you want your AI agents to connect to other services, to use a bunch of tools, whether they're MCP tools, traditional APIs, or the broader ecosystem of interaction paradigms between your AI application, your AI agent, and a third-party tool. We built WorkOS pipes, which you heard about this morning, which lets you not worry about managing the token access of your AI agent and get down to building those custom system prompts that make everyone go, wow. So, where is all of this coming together? We get asked all the time, what is the future of agent identity? And the answer I always try and give is we are not reinventing the wheel of agent identities. If you've heard someone tell you they have a crazy new idea of agent identity, that's fantastic, but I don't think we need it just yet. What your customers really want is for you to integrate with their idea of agent identity and how they want to govern AI in their organizations. So our job is not to reinvent the wheel. Our job is to turbocharge identity for the AI age, to take existing notions of identity that worked for humans, scale them up for agents, and make sure they have the robustness and reliability we need for the AI world that we're all very rapidly building into. So that next time your customers ask you, what are you doing on agent identity? If you're using WorkOS, you've already got it solved. Thank you very much.